Okay, I'll look. That one, I don't. Live from karaoke. Oh, Dustin? Good. I mean, I don't think it's mine. Ah. Do it. I think there's been a gym in there before.
Segment of Sports Call is brought to you by JD's Tire and Auto. When looking for service, selection, quality, and value, no one does it better than JD's Tire and Auto in Alexander City. Offering any brand of tire you need with professional installation and fast turnaround. JD's Tire and Auto, the total package for all your vehicle needs.
You better buckle your seatbelts because it's going to be a show to watch.
From Tiger Communications.
Jackson, touchdown.
For 20 years, East Alabama's sports talk leader.
Swing and drive, bounce and right.
Sports Call.
Oh, what a dunk.
Call in now at 887-3401 locally.
Right through, he got it.
Or 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free.
Struck him out.
And now, coming to you live from the loveliest village on the plains. Sports Call.
Hello again, everyone, and good Tuesday afternoon. Welcome into this, the latest edition of Sports Call. I am Andy Graham alongside Randy Lee, and we'll be with you until 6 o'clock, taking your phone calls and discussing everything going on in the world of sports. Again, we appreciate all of you out there tuning us in today, whether that be on 93.9 The Tiger or sportscallauburn.com via the internet. We'd love to hear from you today, to get your opinion on what's going on right now in for Auburn and across the SEC, across the sports landscape. Whatever you'd like to talk about, we'd love to talk about it with you. 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free or locally at 334-887-3401. Those are our numbers that you can reach us here. You can also check us out on our Facebook page, or you can just send us a tweet at SportsCallAU. But we'd love to hear from you personally. So give us a call and let us know what's on your mind this afternoon. A lot going on in the world of sports. Of course, we'll take a look back at the week that was in college football. A lot of big wins, some big losses, and some big blunders along the way. This being our first chance to be on the air this week, we'll kind of recap that and talk a little bit about that in today's show. Of course, ALCS is underway. The Royals lead 2-1 in that series. Game 4 started about 3 o'clock today. Kansas City came out of the gate swinging today, up 5-0. Of course, R.A. Dickey starting for Toronto. The knuckleball is either feast or famine usually, and looks like it's famine today. But Kansas City up 5-0 in the top of the third inning right now. The Mets lead 2-0 in the NLCS. Game 3 will be tonight, so looking forward to that in Chicago. Midterm grades are in for the SEC. Can you believe that? We're halfway through the season. I mean, Auburn is at the halfway point. A lot of other teams in the SEC and around the country are even beyond the halfway point, have played 7 games right now. So, where are the teams? Are they where we thought they were going to be? Are they better? Are they worse? So we'll talk about some midterm grades, and we'll kind of reevaluate the conference, reevaluate some predictions we made in the preseason and look back and look at the teams and how things are faring right now. Brian Matthews will join us at 4:30 this afternoon. We'll get his thoughts on everything going on in the world of Auburn. And, of course, we're taking your predictions this week. Auburn at Arkansas. I never heard if we were about a tiebreaker, so I just came up with one. We'll go with Sean White passing yards this week for Auburn at Arkansas there in Fayetteville. And it's a big one. And, I came over with the question today. We'll throw it out there now. If it works, good. If it doesn't, we'll go to something else. But are you taking the over-under on 7 wins for the Auburn Tigers in 2015? And how much are you willing to bet?
Do I have to start that?
Go right ahead.
You got to let me think on this one a little bit. 888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401. Back to the phone lines as we are each and every day, and pretty much the entire show today, the phone lines will be open. Michael, you're on Sports Call.
Hey, guys, I appreciate y'all having me on. If I had to pick 7, I think right now, it'd be a push. I think we got an opportunity. I was kind of hoping for a later, kickoff game against Ole Miss. I think that would maybe help. But then again, they played Memphis at 11. But we got to get past Arkansas first. I'm hoping that, maybe Gus comes in there with one of these, hey, win one for me, as far as all the trash talk and things, hey, this, Georgia and Bama may be for y'all, but I'd like to get one over on him. And kind of, I hate, I don't have to tell y'all I hate Auburn speech that Bielema gave, I think, in Arkansas. But I would like to see that. Was hoping, Toronto would do a little bit better in baseball, and maybe Josh Donaldson's got a chance for, American League MVP. But just wanted to kind of get you guys' thoughts on. I'm thinking that the SEC may be left out of the playoff picture just because if Ole Miss, Bama's got to have Ole Miss lose at least one more, and the way things are looking, and there's kind of that SEC hatred out there somewhat. I'm thinking they may try to leave them out.
I think that's a good point. It's still, I find it very difficult to believe that would happen. It depends on who wins, obviously, the SEC and what happens on down the line. I do see Ole Miss losing another game, and the only game that Alabama right now would you look at it and say, well, that's a definite possible loss will be LSU. LSU always seems to play better there in Tuscaloosa, and if they win that game, I don't know. I think you're probably right. If Alabama loses to LSU and ends up with 2 losses, LSU would obviously need to lose against Alabama, and that would probably ensure that no undefeated team would come out of the SEC. But I'm not sure any team. I mean, you look at Ohio State. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Even with Alabama having just the 1 loss, I mean, Ole Miss would then have 3 losses against, Memphis and Memphis and Florida. And if Florida, tanks in the East without their quarterback, which we still don't know exactly what they played good against LSU, don't know what they've got left. I'm just thinking, you got Clemson and FSU in the ACC. One of them may run the table. They have to play each other, but they may run the table. And then you're looking at the Stanford and Utah out west, and they kind of. I just think the team that loses is going to have a stronger. I hate to say stronger loss in the committee's eyes. We're kind of SEC biased, and I'm an Auburn fan, but I can look at Bama and say, hey, they're pretty. I think they could beat pretty much anybody you put them in the playoff with this year. But I just think the committee may look at it and say, hey, you lost to Ole Miss at home, who now lost to Memphis and lost to Florida, and is probably going to lose a few more, I'm thinking, before it's all said and done. And I just think that's going to weigh down Alabama big time. I mean, Ole Miss could legitimately lose, 2 games. They got Arkansas, Texas A&M, us, and LSU. LSU left. Ole Miss could be sitting there with 4 losses, and that could really hurt them, I think, if Bama's the team that wins it all.
If Alabama comes out of the SEC and they get left out of the playoff, I guarantee you the format of the playoff will change in 2016.
We'll see how it goes, guys. I appreciate y'all having me on.
Michael, thanks so much. Keep going.
Any more news out of the baseball for Auburn situation? Y'all heard anything on coaching or anything?
You heard anything, Andy? I haven't heard anything.
Big names. Names that I like. I know Butch Thompson interviewed. I know that Leggett interviewed the former coach of Clemson. I think some other names that Kuhn from the pitching coach of Virginia. I think what was it? I can't remember. There was one more name I heard that was pretty legitimate. But it's I think there's some. Mike Martin Jr. from Florida State. So I think those are the names that you're hearing the most. But I think Butch Thompson has got to be probably the favorite at this point. I just heard
some really big names, and I'm just like, wow, for it to be kind of getting close to right around the corner, big names coming out. I'm just curious for what you guys were hearing, but I appreciate it, guys. Y'all have a good.
Thank you, Michael. 888-9 Tiger 9 334-887-3401. I feel better about Auburn after last weekend. Let me tell you, I saw enough football last weekend to realize there's a lot of teams that aren't very good. Alabama not being one of them. LSU answered a lot of questions from me. Can Fournette get his yards against a very good defense that was allowing less than 100 yards rushing per game, which was Florida, and he did. He got all of those. So that sets up that Alabama and LSU game to be I'm talking about a heavyweight match back in the backfield. 2 of the biggest, toughest, strongest runners we've seen in quite a while, and Big being the main presence that I'll throw in there. And because Derrick Henry had as good a game as I saw last weekend with Fournette have. Both of those guys look tremendous, Andy.
It is. And usually over the last 5 years or so, people would call in and they, Alabama would look, they would say, try to find cracks in their armor. And they would, talk about, well, they don't do this well, or they did this. And if they did this, if they played this other team, they wouldn't look as good or something like that. And I would always find myself in the unenviable position of defending Alabama and saying, what are you talking about? They're a great team. This year I look at them and I hear the other people say, man, this Alabama team is really coming into shape. I look at them and I think, what are you seeing? They're the most inefficient offense I've ever seen. You got a running back that runs for 232 yards. You just totally run up and down the field on Texas A&M, who cannot stop you. And you score 20 offensive points? I mean, you can't take away the 3 interceptions run back for touchdowns, and obviously, that's a big part of it. And of course, that they happen. But I mean, I just look at their offense and I think Lane Kiffin is a master of inefficiency, and sooner or later, that's going to catch up with them. I mean, they are so much more talented than most every other team they play that they just kind of overwhelm them. And maybe they'll continue to do that, but I don't look at them and say, man, that's a well-coached team.
We'll talk a little bit more about that, and I think James will as well. James, you're on Sports Call.
Hey, guys, how you doing?
Good, buddy. Glad to have you on.
All right, listen. When y'all talk about the SEC, man, I like I told Bill Bailey yesterday, you can take 8 of these coaches in the SEC and send them packing. I mean, think about what's going on here, man. And it is changing. You can see the guard is changing. We got defenses that's not stopping nobody. We got offensive in this league that ain't scoring no points. And we get mad about other teams. At least they do score some points. And the bad part about it is when we go to these bowl games, we better hope that we get the right matchups for each team. You can take Mark Richt, send him on his way, and I'm a guy's my son, man, but you can not a man, but he all right, but you can send him on his way because to me his window has closed. But I know we're not gonna find him. You can send Dan Mullen on his way. You can send him free. You can send the dude from Vanderbilt. The only coaches you can realistically keep in this league is the dude from Tennessee because he's is playing attacking football. Nick Saban, he do at least try to stop somebody. I like Mark Stoops. At least he's aggressive. If you don't realize what today's college football is, it's about being aggressive and attacking. The SEC is still in this mode of a conference that we play to the SEC. People ain't studying this no more, man. We're not developing our players in the SEC. We got skill players that catch 5 balls a year, and then we holler when we see other teams getting their skill players 10 balls a game. So the outside world the college football landscape is bad. But think about how bad it is, and think about how bad the SEC looks against a bad landscape for college football. If Ole Miss, like I said, Auburn should beat Ole Miss. They should beat Arkansas. They should beat Georgia. Texas A&M look like they may be kind of hard to beat. Alabama, we ain't going to beat them. You can forget that because we ain't going to score enough points. So if Auburn, at least realistically, they should win at least 3 or 4 of their next 5, 6 games. But if they don't, then that's gonna make you hit yourself in the head because you can say, well, man, this league, this landscape of football was not that great this year. Because if you go to the Big Ten, like I was telling them yesterday, Auburn should beat everybody in the Big Ten except for Ohio State. They should beat everybody in the ACC besides Florida State, maybe. You see what I'm saying? So if you can't beat what is out there now, then how in the world when these teams get better? Hopefully we'll get better, but I'm just saying. So I'm basically talking about the SEC in general now. We have come to the realization in this bias that we the best conference. We have the best defensive linemen, but nobody can get to the passer no more. We got the best skilled people. Well, they catch 5 balls a game. Look at Auburn talking about we got to find a second receiver. Well, you throw it to one receiver. Just throw to the man that's open. You ain't got to find no first and second receiver. Don't look for the one man all the time. So I'm saying, guys, we paying these coaches all this money, way much money than anybody else, and they are not getting nothing out of these guys. And we can't say it's talent. They just not developing, and they not playing no aggressive. I'm talking about Dunn. Look what TCU coach did, Patterson. He was a defensive coach, but all of a sudden he realized the landscape of football is changing. When you can spread people out and go one-on-one with a skilled guy against a defensive back or whatever, you got to adapt. And we are not adapting, man. We are not adapting. And I just hope that when the bowl season rolls around, that LSU don't get stuck with Baylor and Ole Miss don't get stuck with whoever. Think about this. Texas Tech and Oklahoma State can probably come in this league and be the second best team in this league, man. In my opinion, because they're aggressive. They done changed. We're not changed. And then when like I said, when people holler, well, we get defensive players. Well, we get defensive players, but who in the league is rushing the quarterback? We can't even get to the quarterback no more. Nobody. So Alabama can't get to the quarterback. Not much, but they do play at least some good sound defense every now and then. But anyway, that's my take on the SEC. And if we don't get these coaches and make them responsible for all this money that we are paying them to get a better product on the field, then guys, we can holler this SEC. This is not like in the 80s, man. The whole football.
Thank you for the call, James. We got to get to break. We appreciate it. More Sports Call on the way right after this.
Bookstore is your Auburn T-shirt headquarters. Buy 3 T-shirts, get 1 free.
Touchdown! Auburn wins!
Get everything Auburn at the Big Blue Bookstore in the Winn-Dixie Shopping Center on South College Street in Auburn.
Score with more from Carl Gregory Ford. Right now, save up to $12,000 for the best-selling truck in America for 38 years. The 2015 Ford F-150. Plus, with any new Ford purchase, you get more. Your choice, a 50-inch TV or a Yeti cooler and a $100 Walmart gift card. You score huge savings and get more at Carl Gregory Ford. It's simple. Buy a new Ford, get a 50 TV or Yeti cooler, and a $100 Walmart gift card. Sailing soon. Hurry to Carl Gregory Ford in Auburn, Alabama, and score. All rebates India plus tax, title, and tax. With approved credit. Offer expires November 2nd, 2015.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to Sports Call on this Tuesday afternoon. Andy and Randy here with you until 6 o'clock, taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll-free, or locally at 334-887-3401 on the Auburn Opelika Tourism Hotline. Sports Call today brought to you by Home Place Mortgage. Home Place Mortgage of Auburn and Lake Martin, the region's best mortgage professionals, and rates for all new home or refinancing mortgage services. Come to the right place. Home Place Mortgage of Auburn and Lake Martin. You can check them out at their website, homeplacemtg.com. Well, James covered a lot of bases there, and I think the basis of it was the SEC is not the best conference anymore because they're not developing their talent like they were. He brought up TCU, and I thought that was an interesting team to bring up in that Gary Patterson has completely forgotten how to coach defense. They're not stopping anybody. They're not obviously developing anything on the defensive line. Part of it is he's right. College football has changed. It is an offensive game now. But I still think the SEC is the best conference because it has the best overall talent top to bottom. And this is not the year that we looked, that we thought we were going to get. I don't look across the SEC and say, man, look at all these great teams. I do think that it's a bit of a down year, but like you said, or we were talking about before the show, you look across the country, and it's a down year all the way across the board.
Who to you so far has looked better in LSU? Just who out there do you match up with LSU tomorrow on a neutral site and say, boy, a pretty good chance they beat them? Are you going to throw me Ohio State out there?
No.
Me neither. Michigan, we just thought that they turned the corner, and we thought they were world beaters. You saw them. Utah, I don't know what they just pulled off this past weekend. They looked bad. They look as bad as some of the teams that have really fallen off the map like Georgia. I know they get away with one, but nonetheless, they didn't look great doing it. So I'm with you. I match up a couple of these teams in the SEC, and I say good luck. And I thought LSU goes on the road with a backup quarterback that's had some time as a starter, and they gave LSU all that they wanted on the road.
Florida.
Florida. So to me, looking at the East, I still think that they got as good a chance as any to get through the remaining games that they've got on the schedule. Florida State doesn't throw any big hindrance to them out there, and any of the other teams on the eastern side, I think that they far outweigh them. So your thoughts? I think Florida can get to the SEC championship game with that one loss.
Oh, I don't think there's any question they can. They might be able to get there with 2 losses because it's going to come down, it would seem, to the Florida-Georgia game in Jacksonville. And, I'm not sure, looking at Georgia, they beat Missouri 9-6 at home. They can't even put a touchdown on the board against Missouri. Georgia's plummeting to me. I don't look at the SEC and think, wow, look at this dominant conference. But again, people actually compared Ohio State and said, man, they could be like the 95 Nebraska team. They got all this talent, back-to-back national titles. Well, I think we can put that to bed. Okay, they are not bad. They announced today, Cardell Jones no longer starting quarterback. They've changed. So J.T. Barrett, now he had most of the he was the reason for them most of their scoring against Penn State. But Ohio State and Michigan State have got to play each other, and the winner of that is going to play Iowa in the Big 12, and Iowa's probably going to go undefeated, and they're going to probably lose in the Big 10 title game. Utah, like he said, Utah and Stanford. Right now, Stanford looks like I mean, after losing to Northwestern earlier in the year, they look like maybe one of the best. They may beat the best team in the Pac-12. So I think it's going to be a fun year, and I think this season now is the reason you have a playoff, because there's not, one or two really dominant teams, but there's a lot of good teams. There's not a lot of great teams.
888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401. Are you taking the over-under on 7 wins for the Auburn Tigers this year? How much over, how much under are you going to do on both? That's our question of the day. I'll start with it, Andy. And again, I felt a lot better after this past Thursday night. It's a good road victory. Offensively, I thought with 48 plays in the first half, it shows some tempo. I'm with James a bit on that. I like that. That's what we are. Gus Malzahn, we're up-tempo, high-octane offense. It takes it to you. And if we got to outscore you, we have been able to do that a majority of the time. So if that's who you are, if that's the culture that you create, then be it. Now, I'd like to see us become a much better defense than we are now, which is still pitiful. But at least I had a semblance of what we're used to under Malzahn this past Thursday night. And then I watched Saturday, and I go, who's great? Who's great left on that schedule? Look, we'll play Alabama, and, more than likely they'll be a double-digit favorite against us, but none of the rest of them. Georgia all of a sudden looks like they come back to earth. Ole Miss is Ole Miss. I don't care when. I'm not going to sit up here and say until they prove me wrong that I'm expecting to ever lose to Ole Miss anytime. So I do feel much better after this past weekend. Your thoughts?
Oh, yeah. I think it was a big win for a lot of different reasons. I mean, it gives you hope. Number one, it gets you that first SEC win. It gives you that gets that 2012, just out of the conversation. This is not that season. There's a lot of fight left in these. You see the offense progress under Sean White, like you said, and it gave me hope. There's no doubt about it.
Let's quickly get these phone calls. Terry, you're on Sportscall.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for taking my call.
Glad to have you, Terry.
I've got a couple questions for you, and then I got a brief statement. I got 2 statements. Number one, I'm going to start off with, y'all know I'm an Alabama fan, but I'm going to tell you something. I wouldn't bet one way or the other, because in the back of my mind, I still remember 2010 Alabama-Auburn game where we went in 20-something points ahead at halftime and got our butts kicked. No, sir. I will not pick that ball game. I don't care what Auburn's got or what we got. I'll throw that one out the window. The question I've got, and this is no reflection on Coach Malzahn, I'm just merely asking. I think it was Jerry Fowles, whatever his name was, at Notre Dame. It was Doug Barfield at Auburn, and now Coach Malzahn is over there. Could you guys keep up with this a lot more than I do? Can you tell me any head high school football coach that's ever become a head major conference coach that has been successful over a period of time?
And we'll talk about it, Terry, and we're up against the break. We need to get to the top of the hour. We need to get to this break, and when we come back, we'll have Brian Matthews on, and we'll mention that. We talked a little bit about that with Terry on Friday, and Art Briles was brought up, and I think he's done a pretty darn good job. Gus Malzahn, he's maybe a touchdown right now, but I'll take him. I'll still take him, and there's a number of other coaches here in the state that are from the high school ranks doing a pretty darn good job, Andy.
Brian Matthews from AuburnSports.com when we come back right after this.
Go. Conveniently located and easy to find. Walls Tire.
Call today at 256-825-2628.
Allegiant Staffing is your solution. We serve Auburn, Opelika, Montgomery, Wetumpka, Talladega, Alexander City, and the LaGrange, Georgia area. Allegiant Staffing concentrates on light industrial, hospitality, clerical, engineering, and upper-level management positions. So whether you're a business owner looking for hardworking employees or someone seeking an entry-level opportunity or an advancement in your career, Allegiant Staffing is the employment agency for you. Visit our website at allegiantstaffing.com to find.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of Sports Call. Andy Graham here with you until 6 o'clock, taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll-free or locally at 334-887-3401. We'll pick up your phone calls in the next segment, but right now we're going to go to the AO Tourism Hotline and welcome in our good friend Brian Matthews from AuburnSports.com. Brian, how is everything today?
Oh, it's going terrific. Always enjoy being with you guys.
Thank you so much for being here. Brian, Auburn gets a big win that they desperately needed over Kentucky over the weekend. How big of a win do you think it actually was?
In context of this season, I think that was a very, very big win for Auburn. It erased any opportunities of it being a repeat of 2012 when Auburn was 0-8 in the SEC, and it puts them in line to get at least 6 wins and earn a bowl bid. They're still going to have to win another SEC game, and they'll have the opportunity this weekend at Arkansas. But if they can beat Arkansas, you feel pretty good about the chances against Idaho. That's at least 6 wins. They're in a bowl game, and see what you can do after that.
You know, during the game, I don't know if you were watching it on TV or if you were actually at the game, but one of the commentators, the play-by-play man, during, I think it was the second half, he looked down and he said, you know, it might surprise a lot of people, but as we look down and we're watching this game, it looks like Kentucky's got just as many, if not more, playmakers than Auburn does. Would you say that was an accurate statement?
I don't know Kentucky well enough to say that for sure. They've got some really good skill players. They've recruited well at that position, but Auburn's got some. They just really haven't, broken out in some cases as much as you would think they would have halfway through the season. But Auburn has got some deficiencies, and I think the biggest one is on the defensive line as far as talent goes. But I think they're fine as far as skill players and stuff go.
Well, Sean White made his third start of the year, and then certainly I thought he got better. He looks more comfortable, it seems like, every game. How would you evaluate his performance Thursday night?
I thought it was very good. I mean, he looked poised. He avoided pressure well, made some plays, moving out of the pocket on that first drive when he rolled to his left and had to find Ricardo on that third down. Ricardo had to break off his right route and come back to him. I thought that was a big-time play for a quarterback, especially one starting just his third game of his college career as a freshman. So I think Sean White's playing terrific right now, and I'm excited to see how much better he can play as he gains more experience.
It's kind of it's a weird stat that Auburn has right now. They're number one in the SEC in third down conversion, and they're dead last in third down conversion defense. You watch that game and it's just so frustrating that Auburn cannot seem to get off the field, and it's been like that all year, really. But I think I saw a stat earlier this week that Auburn is 9 of 21 giving up third downs of 10-plus yards. So, just right under 50% of 10-plus yards. Obviously, like you said, Auburn's got some deficiencies, but some of this has to just come down to mentality I just can't imagine. I mean, that third and 22 in the game, those kind of things just they really kill, the drive of the team, I think.
Oh, they do, and I think it all boils down to the pass rush. Auburn just does not have the pass rush without call-offs on that field. Cassino McKenzie was moved to Buck to try to shore things up, and he's helped out a little bit. I think Devontae Lambert is starting to get back to where he was before he was injured last year. That's where he can provide a little bit more pass rush, a little bit more making plays behind the line of scrimmage. But, other than that, Auburn doesn't have a true edge rusher behind Carl Lawson. This is 2 years in a row they haven't really had an answer when he's gone down with an injury. So it's something that really needs to be addressed in a big, big way, in this recruiting class coming up. And Auburn doesn't need to go for another season where they don't have any pass rushers.
Well, Auburn, faces a fourth and less than a yard. With the game on the line, they choose to punt. It worked out. The defense did step up and make the play when they had to make it. But and at the time, did you agree with the call? Would you have gone for it?
Oh no, at the time I would have gone for it, absolutely. That's just my individual thinking. But looking back on it, when you see what happened between Gus and Will Muschamp, where Gus turned to Will and said, what do you think? And he said, we got this, or whatever. I don't know exactly what he said, but something to that effect. And, he put the trust in the defense. And I think that could end up being a really important part of the season moving forward. I think that's something we may talk about. If this team continues to improve and starts playing a lot better, I think we may look back at that moment of the season when Gus sort of went against maybe, I don't know if it's conventional wisdom or not, but went against maybe what he thought was the right thing to do and put the trust in the defense that statistically is not very good. And that defense responded and, won the game for Auburn. I think that's a very, very, very big decision and could turn out to have a lot of positive effects.
Well, every game's difficult from here on out. Auburn travels to Fayetteville this weekend. Arkansas, what kind of matchup do you think they provide for Auburn? They're big physical offense. They like to run the ball, but they're a lot more balanced this year than they were last year. Auburn's defense has had trouble stopping either side of the ball. How do you think, is this a bad matchup for Auburn?
I think it is, and the fact that Arkansas has got that big offensive line. Auburn is deficient on its defensive line front seven, so they could be in trouble if they can't find a way to slow down, Alex Collins in that rushing game. I mean, that's just, you can't stop that, and Arkansas is going to run it, 50 times for 300-plus yards. So that's going to be the big test for Auburn. I think offensively, Auburn should be able to move it, and if Sean White can have another big day, that they can put up some points, and I think that gives them a chance to win, but they have to find a way to slow down, not stop, but just slow down the Arkansas running game.
Well, Brian, of course, the baseball search continues for the head coach. Some interviews have taken place. From what I understand, with the early signing period being in November, Auburn expecting to make a decision on this before the month of October is gone. Is that right?
Oh, I think so. I think it'll be the end of this week, early next week. I think they have one or two more interviews to do this week, and then I think it'll be decision-making time. And I said from the start that I thought Butch Thompson was the best candidate for Auburn, and I still feel that way. And he has interviewed, and I don't know if he's a front runner or not, but he's the guy that would be my pick here. And I think we should know something in this week, early next week.
I think it's worth mentioning that some of the names that that have been talked about that are candidates for this job and actually interviewing maybe for this job. Being the time of year that it is and the unusual situation that it is, the fact that there are some guys like, that are considered really big up-and-comers are interested in this job, I guess maybe that says, a lot about the Auburn job in particular, in and of itself, that it is still looked at as a very, very good job.
It is, and Auburn's going to pay very well. They've got decent facilities. They used to be very good facilities. They've sort of fallen behind in that category, but it's in the SEC. It's got a great recruiting base in the state of Alabama and Atlanta and Florida. So there are a lot of positives to this job. It's not the best job in the SEC, but with the right coach here, it can be a very good job in this conference.
Well, Brian, kind of let us know what to expect from AuburnSports.com this week.
Well, we'll have plenty of coverage leading up to the Auburn-Arkansas game. I think, again, like Kentucky was, a very pivotal matchup for Auburn. And I'm here at basketball practice right now. I'm going to talk to Coach Pearl and a couple players afterwards. So we'll continue to have more basketball updates, ton of preseason basketball coverage on our sites this week. And then, in recruiting too, of course, I think some players like Kyle Davis is going to decide on Friday night. Auburn could be close to flipping the character kid who's committed to South Carolina cornerback. He's one to keep an eye on. And there's still plenty of recruiting going on too. So we'll have tons of different content items and football, basketball recruiting over the next few days.
Really looking forward to that. AuburnSports.com. Be sure to go and check that out. Brian, we appreciate it so much.
Hey, I appreciate y'all. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Up against the break. Don't go anywhere. More Sports Call presented by Lee Marketing Group. Right after this. And welcome back to Sports Call on this Tuesday afternoon. Andy and Randy here with you for one more segment in the first hour of today's show. Love to hear from you. Give us a call, 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll-free, or locally at 334-887-3401 on the Auburn Opelika Tourism Hotline. Just caught up with Brian Matthews from AuburnSports.com. Got his thoughts on this past week's happenings, everything, and how big of a win it was for Auburn. We talked about that in the first hour, and I think it does. You look at the rest of Auburn's schedule, and, Idaho, obviously, you count that as a win, but maybe you shouldn't in this season, but you do count that as a win. But, Arkansas 2-4 on the season, although they did go to Tennessee and win. You think that maybe they've improved. They've had a week off to prepare for Auburn. Like you said, the Ole Miss game doesn't look near as formidable as it did. The Georgia game doesn't look as formidable as it did. You feel like Auburn has got a chance in those games, and you take your chances on the road at Texas A&M. That's probably an uphill battle, but we'll see. And then the Iron Bowl is what it is. So Auburn's sitting at 4-2. Things could be worse. It's 1-2 in the conference, and it kind of feels like we're 2-4, but we're actually 4-2. So there's something to look forward to. The numbers don't look good. Offensively or defensively. Auburn is in the top 5 in the SEC in some interesting categories. Again, number 1 in third down conversion. If you can get the offense the ball and, they can convert third downs. They can, put some drives together. But the defense last in the league in third down conversion defense. So they're not giving the ball back to their offense as near as much as they need to, not giving the offense that, enough chances to go down and score. And I think that's got to be an issue that's got to change.
Now, I agree with that one, but, when I look, and I'm going to stay with the positives right here, rushing 183 yards a game, which is 49th in the country, and I think back to the game so far, Andy, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but I can't remember a game where I felt like we can't run the football on them. More than anything, I've been running more. I mean, I want to be, 50-50. It would be ideal, and we saw a little bit more of that in the previous game. But nonetheless, there's not been a game so far that I said, boy, they got us. They're whooping us up front. I've been begging us to go faster. I've been begging us to do the tempo that we have because I think we got the linemen in place and the backs back there in the backfield that can bang out 220, 240 yards rushing a game. Do you not agree?
Well, it's the lack of being able to establish a running game in the first half. We couldn't do that against San Jose State. We couldn't do that against Jacksonville State. That was what was so disappointing. We just couldn't dominate. We had 50-something yards rushing in one game, 67, I think, yards rushing at the half against San Jose State. So our numbers don't look that bad, but we haven't been able to really command the offense and really be able to command the line of scrimmage in the first half of games, and that's why are we getting off such a poor start? Why is it taking us 3 quarters to really get going on that running game? I think it's gotten better with each game, and I think we're starting really to find ourselves there. So that's a good sign moving forward.
Let's go back to the phone line. Steve, you're on Sports Call.
Hey, War Eagle, gentlemen, and good afternoon.
Glad to have you on, Steve.
Thanks for the phone call. I'll try to be real quick. I would like your comments on 2 questions. One I asked yesterday, Will and Bill. And that first question has to do with, what's your reasoning behind the thinking with the Las Vegas odds makers, making Arkansas a 4.5, now 5.5 point favorite over us? This is a team that's 1-3 at home. I couldn't make sense of it. And the other question is, what, if any, impact do you see the 80 to 9% prediction of rain now for the Arkansas game being an advantage or having any impact for either us or for Arkansas? I'll hang up and listen to you guys. Word always.
Thanks, Steve. I guess from a neutral perspective, to try to look at it and say, well, why would Arkansas be this kind of favorite? I look at it and say, here's a team that runs the ball extremely well. They base their offense around physicality, and Brandon Allen has done much better this year. The Arkansas is opened up the passing game, and they're a lot more balanced than they have been. Auburn can't stop either one. So you look at them and say, well, if Arkansas controls the line of scrimmage in this game, Auburn, doesn't have any chance because they can't, they can't score enough points to win the game. I think that's why somebody from the outside would look at it and say, Arkansas is sitting here 2-4, but you look at the way they play offense and look at the way Auburn plays defense. It's a bad matchup for the Auburn Tigers.
Let's quickly try to get one more phone call in before the top of the hour break. Stroud, you're on Sports Call.
Hey, good afternoon, gentlemen. How are y'all?
Good to hear from you, Stroud.
Good to hear from y'all too. For me, and I was very frustrated, especially in the third quarter of the Kentucky game, but just taking a step back and looking at the entire situation and considering that we've got a redshirt freshman at quarterback, I sort of get why Gus is playing it a little bit close to the vest, but I think that as time goes on and as Sean White's able to gain some more confidence that the offense will open up. And I look at the schedule, and besides the Alabama game, there's really not another game on that schedule that Auburn might at least have a shot at winning. Now, how much differently do we look at the rest of the season? Let's just say we win all of them except for the Alabama game. We end up, that makes us 9-3. That's a pretty stinking good year considering how bad things look around the Jacksonville State game. And what I'm looking for is Auburn get better every single week. We look better this week against Arkansas. We look better against Ole Miss than we do, assuming that we beat Arkansas, and I think we will. That's what I'm looking for. Are you guys taking picks yet?
Yes, quickly. We got to go to break here.
Okay, all right, real quickly. I'm going to go Auburn 35, Arkansas 21. And what's the tiebreaker?
John White passing yard.
He's going to have a big day. I like him for about 275 yards passing.
Thanks so much, Stroud. We'll put it down. Fox Sports Report's up next. We'll be back with more Sports Call right after this.
Call in now at 887-3401 locally. Or 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free.
Struck him out.
And now, coming to you live from the loveliest village on the plains, Sports Call.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sports Call on this Tuesday afternoon. Andy Graham and Randy Lee here with you for one more hour, taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free or locally at 334-887-3401 on the Auburn Opelika Tourism Hotline. Our question of the day, are you taking the over or under on 7 wins for the Auburn Tigers in 2015? Obviously, Auburn 4-2 with a big win over Kentucky on the road in Lexington this past Thursday night. They will head to Fayetteville to take on the Razorbacks this Saturday. A big chance, as Steve mentioned before we went to break, about an 80% chance of rain there in Fayetteville. So that should be that should add some interest to that, or an element to the game. I don't know if it helps or hurts. We'd like to know how you feel about it. So give us a call today. Sports Call is brought to you by Lee Marketing Group. From logo design and branding to ad placement, LMG can handle it all. For ease of time, cutting edge, results-driven marketing campaigns, think Lee Marketing Group, your comprehensive marketing solution. Be sure to check them out at leemarketing.net. We are taking your predictions. Auburn at Arkansas, Sean White, passing yards being the tiebreaker. And we'll open the show on the AO Tourism Hotline.
Back to the phone line. Shadow, you're on Sports Call.
Hello?
Yeah, you're on Shadow.
Yeah, thank you for taking the call. I want to pick 44-17 Arkansas. I'm going to go. I think Sean White. I think he'll have about 225 on throwing the ball. I do want to ask y'all a few questions. Do you believe if Kentucky had continued to throw, that they would have won the game?
When did they stop?
Well, they had made a decision about the third or the fourth down on one of the last series. They chose to run it instead of passing it.
Okay, yeah, the third, yeah, that was. I thought that was an incredibly stupid call on Kentucky's part. I don't know if it would have. It's hard to say. I can't predict. What might have happened, but I understand. You kind of want to surprise somebody, and you figure maybe that you pull that draw, and I've seen that draw make 20 yards in that kind of situation before. But that's the chance you take without any timeout.
Hey, listen, I want to give you this statistic, and I would like to hear your comments on it. Last year, Auburn had 22 interceptions. This year, to this point, they have 5. Would you comment on that?
One reason a lot of people early in the season didn't throw on Auburn because they had so much success running the football. So we have not. Sometimes that works out. I mean, that's one of those statistics that one year the ball just kind of bounces funny, and you have a lot more opportunities to have interceptions. Carlton Davis has made a couple here as of late in the last couple of games. I think he's getting better. But Jonathan Jones.
I'm with you, Shadow. It disgusts me to watch us run, not find the football. And I know that that's how it's taught, and I know that scraping the football away is a Nick Saban trait, and many of these coaches have gone down that same path. Boy, it's tough to watch when it seems like those back-of-the-shoulder passes that we see on the sideline that Jacksonville State hit on us, Kentucky hit on us, everyone. I mean, there's very little problem that you have. I mean, we're not going to intercept it. We may luck up and it hit us in the back of the helmet, but that's the only way we're going to defend it.
I'm going to hang up and listen, but I do want y'all's comments on the fact that on this scenario, and that is, if Auburn does not go to a bowl game this year, do you foresee any changes in the coaching staff? Thank you.
Good question.
I think the only changes I would see would be defensively, if there are any, and those would only be if Will Muschamp wants them. If Will Muschamp wants changes made, I think there'll be changes made. If he doesn't, if he feels like they've got the staff in place that he wants, then no. I don't think it matters whether we go to a bowl game or not.
Let's go back to the phone lines. Drew, you're on Sports Call.
How about it, guys?
Good to hear from you, Drew.
Yeah, I tell you what, man. I don't like the raking. I like turning your head and playing the ball. And the other night in the ball game, Shadow makes a good point. I'm with y'all. I think that was stupid on Kentucky's part. I think Kentucky has probably got one of the better quarterbacks in the country. He has done as much with as little. Of course, that kid that Muschamp talked to after the game about not offering and whatnot, he's a heck of a player. But if I was playing against Auburn, every single third down, and I would say 3rd and 8 or longer, all I would do is tell my outside slot receiver, I'd tell him to go deep, and I'd turn the ball loose about 20 yards and underthrow it, make him turn around and try to come back to the ball. You get pass interference every single time. Every single time on these kids, because they're behind the ball. They're trying to play the receiver instead of the ball, never turning their head. And, it's just there. It's there for the taking. And it seems like everybody that we have played, and Sean White's not a bad passer. Sean White's not a bad passer. We have had some problems with these blocking defensive linemen. But it seems like the teams that we have tried to have to thread the ball through a needle or pass into double coverage or whatever, seems like what we're having trouble throwing the ball on is man-to-man coverage. And what I'm ready for, I don't care if these kids are young or what, I'm ready for our defense to get physical. I'm ready to put these, put a little bit of weight on these defenders' shoulders and whatnot. Let's face it, guys, you can take LSU didn't have to throw the ball. All they had to do was hand it off to Fournette. But Brandon Harris would have been successful passing against this defense. The way we're playing this zone defense, it's almost like it's against the rules to get within 10 yards of somebody trying to catch a pass and then tackle them once I catch it. And I think it's frustrating for everybody to see. But I also think that I hear people say there's not talent at Auburn. There's not talent at Auburn. We can't recruit. Our guys are smaller and whatnot. And physically, we do look a lot smaller than a lot of the defenses that are out there. And we don't look as physical in nature as they do as well. But what we are lacking is that dynamic playmaker. I don't care how bad our pass coverage has been this year. You insert Carl Lawson on this team, and it's different. A lot of people have said, we haven't had a dynamic pass rusher in years and years and years. Apparently, they forgot D4. And I heard a caller the other day, it may have been shy to say, when's the last time we've recruited a dynamic rusher? But if y'all remember, D4 got hurt during a portion of that year, and the whole dynamic of our defense changed completely. And Carl Lawson's hurt us. Montravius Adams, I think, has been a little bit of a disappointment. But we lack that Nick Fairley guy. We lack that Carlos Rogers cover corner. And let's face it, guys, Carlos Rogers did not play the receiver. He turned his head. He played the ball. And you got a list that goes on and on and on of defenders that we have had in the past that have done that. And I think it's frustrating for everybody as an Auburn fan. And I'm not going to sit here and grade the system and say, hey, I'm not going to watch any more Auburn football, and I think we get beat 80 to nothing. To me, a negative caller like that, probably if they want to listen to the show, don't make those comments. Get you Auburn man. But I really and truly think that it's going to take Muschamp. I don't think Muschamp's a bad defensive coordinator. I think everybody sees that now at what he left at Florida. And Florida's probably got one of the better cover defenses. They're pretty good at the run. And I think it's going to take a little bit of time for him to get the personnel that he wants, just like any coach that's changing defensive schemes. And you may see some of these schemes change and whatnot once we get the personnel in place. But I would say over and under, I would say right there at 7. I'm big in the 7-win season. And at this point in time, I think that would probably be a success as far as seeing what our defense has been able to do now at this point. But I think from an offensive standpoint, you're going to see a little more of Jason Smith get involved. I think Marcus Davis stepped up. He actually had a pretty good game last week, a little more explosive than he's looked in a while. And let's face it, guys, Ricardo Lewis is a guy that he's a dynamic player, but he's had problems with drops in the past. And until we get that Darvin Adams guy that's got a good attitude, goes after the ball, and pops up, hands the ball to the referee, and gets back to the line of scrimmage as quick as possibly can, we're going to struggle a little bit on the offensive side of the ball. I'd love to see Kyle Davis come. I know Kyle Davis is getting a lot more interest and whatnot from the Auburn coaches, but let's face it, you get these big-time receivers, you got to have a big-time playmaker at running back. And not knocking Peyton Barber, the kid plays with a lot of heart. The kid plays with a lot of heart. But Peyton Barber, as hard as he plays and whatnot, he's just in a different class than Fournette, Henry, and some of the other guys around the league. But in watching Alabama play the other day, you know, Alabama could have taken any one of those three running backs and got the yards that Henry got probably, simply because they were running through holes that was as wide as a truck. And until our offensive line, supposedly the best that we've had in a long time, what I heard prior to the season, until they start blowing somebody off the ball, and until our defensive line starts getting pressure on quarterbacks, they're going to be a passing situation. It is what it is. I mean, we're going to have to score a lot of points because we're going to give up a lot of points. We just don't have that lockdown defense. And I think from a fan standpoint, you watch some of these older defenses back in the Dye era, and some of those defenses just absolutely swarm to the ball. And it seems like even in zone coverage situations, it seems like there's always somebody there to make a play. But, you know, Carl Davis, yeah, they said several times the other day he's going to be a stud. Key words there is going to be. I mean, he is a young kid that has been put out there on a pedestal and asked to do a lot. And week to week, it's going to be an Auburn team. You really don't know what you're going to get. I think the offense is going to make some strides. They're going to get better. They're not going to be a knock your eyes, knock your socks off offense. It's going to put up 500 yards every game. But, you know, as Auburn family and Auburn fans, we need to get behind these folks and watch them. And as far as a negative bashing and whatnot, negative bashing miles on, every one of us can be Monday morning armchair quarterbacks, and we're the same people and the same callers on this show that said when Auburn hired Malzahn that they hired the best coach that was there. They didn't want anybody else. And what's happened and transpired the first of this season, and why not everybody's hiring all of a sudden, and it's my first chance to something up. I think we need to give it time. I don't think Malzahn's a bad coach. Some of his play calling sometimes I think gets a little too cute. Whatnot when we drive the ball methodically down the field, we try to reverse, lose 9 yards. And this is not an Auburn team that can play from behind the sticks. It just isn't. But anyway, I know that was a lot going off a little steam, but I'll hang up here with you guys have to say.
Drew, thanks so much for the phone call. It is an eye-opening stat, though, that before we go to break, 22 interceptions last year, 5 so far this year. And I know the numbers are equally as pitiful as they were last year, but at least you were getting some turnovers to get the ball back to your offense some other ways.
Absolutely. Up against the break, but don't go anywhere. More Sports Call presented by Lee Marketing Group right after this.
Total package for all your vehicle needs.
When hurt in a big truck accident, make one call to Kenneth Ingram Jr. Alabama's interstates are the hot spot for careless big rig accidents, and people are getting hurt. When big trucks don't follow the rules of the road, that's when serious accidents happen. And that's when you need to call Kenneth Ingram Jr. We've got your back, and we'll fight to get you the maximum recovery. Make one call to Kenneth Ingram Jr., champion of the common man, 256-212-9700.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be provided is greater than that of other attorneys.
Experience and knowledge from the pros. Russell Do-It Center and Building Supply.
Russell Do-It Center and Building Supply, locally owned and operated with over 30 years of experience, is very involved in giving back to our community. Our employees offer top-notch customer service with superior product knowledge. No matter the size of the job, Russell Do-It Center and Building Supply have you covered.
Experience and knowledge from the pros. Russell Do-It Center and Building Supply.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of Sports Call. Andy and Randy here with you for about 35 more minutes, taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll-free or locally at 334-887-3401 on the Auburn Opelika Tourism Hotline. We have had two novels written today on Sports Call, and you could pick out one or two things, and it was great calls. A lot of information, a lot of great stuff, but too much to comment on, just because I can't. I get lost. If I start swimming around in some of those things, trying to come up with something to retort to it. But Drew makes good points, and he's certainly a normal caller, and he always seems very level-headed and takes a good approach, I think, to things.
Did confirm 22 interceptions for Auburn last year. You had 6 for both Jermaine Whitehead and Jonathan Jones. Trevon Reed with 3 and Jonathan Ford with 3, so the remainders were 1 apiece. So Auburn does get those 22, as it was mentioned, only 5 so far this year. So, that is a massive difference that you're seeing with turning football over. And when you see numbers like Auburn's got on total defense, they're 93rd in the country, 426 yards, 101 against the rush, 69th against the pass, 111th on third down D. It's hard to find some positives, I guess.
Now watch this now. We were at one time giving up 230 a game rushing. So we've gotten better in the last several weeks. I'm trying to be positive here.
Well, keep trying. 888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401. One positive that we mentioned, Auburn offensively, third down conversions have been tops in the SEC so far, and that was one that we mentioned. And really the special teams, though. Daniel Carlson gets a Lou Groza recognition this week, I guess is the best way to put that. And Daniel Carlson and the punting game and the kicking game in general, I think, has been outstanding for Auburn this year.
It has, and that was one thing that we were concerned about coming in. Punting was not good the year before, but he's done an outstanding job, and he gets a lot of height on the ball. He doesn't have, not an overwhelming average, but it's one of the better ones we've seen in a while. So no complaints there. Auburn's, there for a while, especially in 2010, 2013, we were great at kickoff returns. We've gotten back to that. We're very high. I think we're leading the SEC in kickoff return or up there toward the top. Not so much in punt returns. Hadn't had a lot of opportunity to punt because we hadn't been able to get people to punt very much. So there's one of those things. But you just get off the field on 3rd and 10 or more, and you give so many more opportunities to the offense. And we faced 21. Third downs of 10 or more, and we've given up 9 of them. So take those 9 away and give those possessions to the offense. We score more points. We have more yards. Total offense. So all of it kind of works in concert together. But at this the third down, that's one of those things that's just got to get better. And we blitzed a lot more against Kentucky trying to figure something out. But 3 sacks, but it not quite enough.
Georgia just being Georgia this year. Unfortunately, you just say that. And you ask, and it's a good question, and I'd like to present it out there. You said, what do you consider, when we were asked Terry, a high school coach coming up to the college ranks, what do you consider positive? I mean, would you take what Auburn's done? Clearly, I would, with an SEC title and almost a national championship. I know I use that word almost, but did pick up a national title in 2010 with another SEC championship. It's been a good run. Or you look at Georgia, and you've got consistent play and a very consistent winner, 9 wins a year. You just don't get that top end. And right now, I don't know if the wheels are going to fall off, but, buddy, it looks like there's a good chance that they are, Andy.
It does. Grayson Lambert is, to borrow a line from Denny Green, he is who we thought he was. He came out and he had that 2-game stretch where I think he had 2 incompletions, and everybody said, and even I said, look, if he plays like this for the rest of the season, Georgia's going to be very difficult to beat. Now, he's looking more and more like the guy that played at Virginia. So, I think from listening to some Georgia talk radio, I think Georgia fans they're almost at that point to where they're just saying we just can't go down this road again and again and again, and we're just again the problem is you fire a guy like Rick, or you make it you make a change. There's a better than 50% chance the guy's going to be worse that you bring in.
Oh, of course it is.
So, be careful what you wish for, because you might get it.
Another team out there that looks like they're on the downturn is Ole Miss, and luckily we'll catch them later on. Maybe missed a strong little spurt there at the beginning. I never felt like the way they ran the football and the physical nature that they have, and defensively they can always look like world beaters maybe. Whatever they got going against Alabama is just working in their direction right now. But they seem like that's another team that I look over and say, yeah, 50-50. I give ourselves a good chance of beating that Ole Miss team.
What do you think? You got a guy like Brian Cox Jr. that comes in and plays fullback for Florida, and he makes a block and they score a touchdown, and Blackledge is saying, oh, what a great, this guy is such an athletic guy. And then you got, you got Kim Deechie, giving him the ball on a 3rd and short. They don't get it. He gets a concussion, gets knocked out of the game, and you lose him on defense. And everybody says, well, Hugh Freeze's an idiot. And that's fair. But so what do you think about using guys like that in those situations?
I personally don't mind it at all. If it's for something other than what the fridge used to be for, which was a novelty item. I don't think he was in there because they thought that he added a better chance of scoring from 1 yard out than Walter Payton did, but it was a novelty item, and it was fun, and it was creative, and, buddy, they could have beaten anybody at any time during that stretch anyway. But when you ask about Kim Deechie, if they feel like he's the presence that they're looking for on the offensive side, I have no problem with it. I think Champ Bailey proved that you can do it in the SEC, and who would have thought that running a ball at a fullback position with the position that he plays and the physical nature that he plays with, that you're going to have a better chance of catching a concussion from there than what you see on the other. So I think it's just one of those weird predicaments, and unfortunate for Hugh Freeze is, boy, everything's spiraling downhill on him right now.
Yeah, Ole Miss is never going to win the SEC until they can run the ball. And they just haven't been able to run the ball since he's been there, and that's going to be his downfall, to be quite honest. He could last at Ole Miss for a while yet more. And they could win 8 or 9 games, but they're never going to be a top-end team until they figure out how to run the ball.
If they had a quarterback play like Dak Prescott, who added a dimension to run the football, and I know Kelly's an athletic guy, and Bo Wallace last year was an athletic guy, but he's not one that's going to Cam Newton you. And I'm not talking about Cam, but I'm talking about Dak Prescott, who can go for 100 when needed. So that physical presence, they don't have somebody like that to take away from the lack of running that they have. So Ole Miss ain't worried about. Georgia, I'm not. Does it mean we're much better than them? Absolutely not. But moving on into the season, I got a lot more hope than I did going into last weekend.
Yeah, well, we'll have to beat them at 11 o'clock because that game has been scheduled at 11 now on Halloween afternoon. So, hey, you'll get to go trick-or-treating after all. Up against the break here, but don't go anywhere. More Sportscall presented by Home Place Mortgage is on the way. Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Sports Call on this Tuesday afternoon. Andy and Randy here with you for a couple of more segments, taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll-free or locally at 334-887-3401 on the AO Tourism hotline. And I think we'll go back to the AO Tourism hotline.
Terry, you're on Sports Call.
Yes, sir, gentlemen. I hate to call back twice, but the reason I ask about the success of high school coaches is that, you know, in high school, you can have a mediocre season. Nobody's going to run you out of town on a rail. And you got a family there that's helping look after the children, you know, the players. When you become a Division I coach, you got 100-something young men that don't have parents anymore, even though it's one parent, and you're responsible for that. And you are expected to win every ball game. And you got to deal with speaking engagements. You got to deal with alumni. You got to deal with faculty and the president and the athletic director. And then you got to deal with outside donors. Now, if you come from high school to that and expected to win every weekend, that is a heck of a lot of pressure.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I don't know, you know, I mean, I wouldn't even know who all has coached high school. I mean, you know, the famous ones that go right from high school to major college would be like Art Briles or Gus Malzahn. As you mentioned, Jerry Faust. But, I mean, Art Briles and Gus Malzahn, I'd certainly take their success. I think it's been pretty good. Hugh Freeze was a high school football coach.
Well, you know, let me state this, please, before you hang up on me. You know, I'm not criticizing anybody. I just don't. See, I get in depth, and I just don't think everybody realizes if you come from high school and then you come into a Division I major university as a head coach, and you've never had to deal with all these outside forces, it is hard to deal with. And I admire Coach Malzahn, and you know, and I admired, you know, Coach Barfield. But I mean, my God, you came from high school ranked to a Division I program, and everybody's expecting you to win, and you have no idea what you are doing when it comes to all the outside factors. And that's all I'm saying, is that it's a different ball game. It is a totally different ball game.
And we appreciate the phone call, Terry. Thank you so much for the phone call. 888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. And to be honest, I think that goes for guys that are coordinators in college. I mean, you go from a coordinator to a head coaching position, and it's a different world. It's a totally different kind of ball game. And I think you see that with Will Muschamp, not being able to – and you see that with a lot of other really good coordinators. They go – they get a head coaching job, and it's so much more to it than just X's and O's. So I mean, Terry makes a good point, but I think, you know, you got to either deal with it and move on, or you get fired. I mean, that's just the way the world works.
Be thankful you're not a Michigan fan this week. Were you watching, Andy?
I was. I watched the entire game. I watched that. I mean, I had like picture-in-picture with keeping up with Alabama and Texas A&M, but I watched that game, and you know, I had no dog in the fight, but yet I felt like I'd been kicked in the groin. I mean, I felt like the Michigan kid that they showed, you know, that was plastered about. It was a complex combination of horror, confusion, and just total bewilderment. You know, I mean, it was the same look the kid at Alabama. I mean, at Jordan Hare at the kick six. Agape, you know. I mean, it was. I felt so sorry for Michigan, but fall on the ball. What are you doing?
I mean, you couldn't recreate it. That was the crazy part about a lot of these. I mean, it just happened just as perfect as you could, and the ball was flipped over as perfect as you could, and the player just standing there waiting on it, and he just barely beats the defender into the end zone to get. I mean, it was an amazing end, and just goes down in the books of one of those that you'll continue to talk about, and it just happened to be a big rivalry game to go along with it, Andy.
I say, we did months ago. The biggest gut-wrenching losses ever. This is top 5. I think this is top 5 for me. I mean, and again, I mean, not even personally. I'm just talking about just in general terms. Just unbelievable. I mean, but look, I went back and looked at it today. I mean, it was not a great snap, but it was good enough. Hit the guy in the hands, and if all he's got to do is fall on the ball at the 40-yard line. There's probably 4 seconds left in the game. It's either going to be a 57-yard field goal attempt with a sketchy kicker, or it's going to be a Hail Mary. Would you 10% chance Hail Mary goes through? Maybe 10%. Fall on the ball. Little league coach told me one time, don't let an error beat you twice. Everybody makes mistakes, but don't compound your error. He fumbled the ball. All right, fall on it. Don't try to kick it, dummy. It was just, I think, that kid needs a lot of support this week, or either he needs to be kicked off the team. I could go either way.
LSU passing game show you enough for them to win the SEC.
I'm thinking Brandon Harris is coming around.
Look pretty good to me.
He makes some pretty good throws, and obviously, I mean, when you got Malachi Dupree and Travin Doral, you got some nice targets. That's just a couple, but he started. They're still, can he drive them down the field, throwing the ball in the fourth quarter? Well, he looked pretty good doing it against Florida. So that was at home. Can you do it on the road? We'll find out in a couple of weeks.
Looked pretty balanced. 221 rushing, 202 passing, 170 some odd yards for Fournette again. And you look on the opposite side, Florida just nothing running the football. So that LSU defense gave up plenty through the air, 271 through the air, but not much rushing. I'm telling you, it is pointing.
Does Will Greer make a difference in this game?
Maybe, but I still think he threw for 271.
I was pretty impressed with Treon Harris.
I was too.
Except those last 2 drives. That's the moment became too big for him, I think, right there. I mean, he just couldn't, he couldn't do anything in those last couple of drives. But, and just to quickly take this back to Auburn, that's the one thing you really haven't seen from Sean White. The moment has never been too big for him. I mean, that was a huge game. Now, he hasn't played in a game quite like that, but, you keep waiting for him to look, in those first couple. Yeah, and he just doesn't. I think that's a good sign moving forward, and I think he's going to get better and better. But going back, Florida's just better than I thought they were. My goodness. I mean, obviously they've been missing an offense, and that's the problem. And we said that over and over, and every time we mentioned Florida, I'd say 3 offensive coordinators in 4 years. You can't do that. That's why hopefully you learn from it. Next time he gets another head coaching job, he won't make the same mistake again.
Had a call earlier in the program that said remainder of the games outside of Alabama look like good chances for Auburn. Not that they'll be favored and all, but you feel fairly positive. Buddy, I still watch Texas A&M try to figure out how we're going to beat them, because if you can't defend,
we can run the ball.
You can run the ball, but you're going to have to score 45, because defending the pass the way that we do and the lack of pressure that you put on a quarterback against Texas A&M, you got to do all those things, or they're going to light you up, because skill position-wise, they still got them. Kirk looked, I don't know what kind of big game that he didn't have but he had some big plays. And I just off the hoof, I look at A&M and go, how do we play with them?
Yeah, Christian Kirk is he's special. I mean, that punt return was, I'm afraid we're going to see that again. But if we can run the ball, and I think we're going to get better, and we'll be even better running the ball by the time we get to A&M. Anybody that can run the ball efficiently can play with A&M. I believe that. I mean, like you say, we're going to score 40 points, but I don't see us doing that. I'm not, at least not right now. But they just can't. They can't stop the run, and that's again going to be their problem. If they can't run the ball on offense, therefore they can't stop the run on defense. They just don't see it enough in practice. So I think that's always going to be their downfall.
I think Alabama going into the game had given up an average of 76 rushing yards per game. If I remember last week, they give up 32 in this game against A&M. Pretty impressive, Andy.
Oh yeah, they got the best defensive line and the best run defense, bar none, that I've seen this year. I mean, and, you know, Michigan's pretty close, but I'm not sure they've seen the kind of athletes in the backfield that Alabama has seen or will see. You know, they gave up 100. What did they end up giving? 140, 160 to Chubb, but 83 of it was on one play. Can't take that away, but you take that 160 out of that average, what would they be giving up?
I know it. 888-9 Tiger 9 334-887-3401.
Don't go anywhere. One final segment of the Tuesday Sports Call right after this. Welcome back, everyone, to the final segment of the Tuesday Sports Call. Andy Graham and Randy Lee here taking you home to 6 o'clock. Still time to get that final phone call in. 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free locally at 334-887-3401 on the AO Tourism hotline. Are you taking the over or under on 7 wins for the Auburn Tigers in 2015? That is our question of the day. Also taking your predictions, as we will throughout the rest of this week. Auburn at Arkansas. Sean White passing yards being the tiebreaker. It does not look good if you're a Toronto Blue Jay fan. It is now, I believe, the bottom of the 7th, 9-2. Kansas City Royals. Not a good day for the pitching staff of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Andy, I know you and Brian talked about in the first hour the Auburn baseball hire. We haven't talked much about it the previous program. You know, I'm interested to hear your thoughts. It's in the middle of recruiting season, really, for Auburn. You got an early signing period in the next couple of weeks. It seems to me in baseball that that's a very important time. I'm not as knee-deep in recruiting on the baseball side as I am on the football for the most part, but time is of the essence, I would believe, here. And do you think Auburn is kind of teetering with someone, or have you heard anything different, and what did Brian add?
Yeah, he said he would expect something this week.
Oh, wow.
You know, at the latest, the first of next week. It would, you know, unless something unforeseen happens, I would imagine there'll be a coach in place certainly by the end of October. Like you said, that early signing period beginning in November, that's a kind of an important date. You know, I haven't, you know, I should have asked that. Maybe we can do that. We'll ask Jason on Thursday. But, you know, I mean, Auburn had a very good incoming class put together already. You know, baseball players, you know, a lot of times you have coaching changes. It's not really like basketball or baseball where you have guys jumping ship quite as much. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see, you know, how many of those Gallery recruits stay on and who they hire and what they're, you know, do they want them to stay? Do they want to go ahead and start over and try to build an entire new class in the time left that they have? But I think the fact that you have some guys interested now in the job, now they're all assistants. You have one former coach, Jack Leggett from Clemson, who did an outstanding job there, but a lot of up-and-comers. But I think there's a lot of interest in the job, and I think that speaks well of Auburn.
Busy afternoon, so I missed most of this story, so I need you to fill me in. But, God, Louisville goes through some issues, and Bettino, I don't know if he brings it on himself, but there always seems like there's something waiting around the corner.
Last week, or I guess last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, but, you know, Andre McGee, former assistant there, a graduate assistant at Louisville, apparently, yeah, I don't know if anybody's denying this now, you know, arranged through I don't know any other word to say it, but madam, that, you know, providing girls' parties for and at these parties, strip club, basically, atmosphere, and even going as far as to, you know, spend the night with these recruits and players and even guardians that are bringing these recruits to Louisville. So, you know, this went on for, I think, between 2010, 2014. Patino says he knew nothing about it. Nobody knows anything about it. But he says, I think the quote he had today was, this guy needs to come forward and tell the truth. He's no longer at Louisville. He's at another institution as an assistant coach. So will Patino survive this? He already come out and, you know, initially and said that he's not going to resign. He said the president hasn't asked him to resign. But if he felt like, you know, that whether the president said it or not, if he felt like that's what they wanted him to do, then he would not hesitate. He would step down. So it's just this extremely ugly situation for Louisville, but it's kind of an old-fashioned, you know, recruiting. So you hear about this all the time. You don't hear about this quite much anymore. But
how much baseball are you watching? You watching a lot of it?
I'm watching a pretty good bit of it, actually.
I'm enjoying.
I didn't watch anything on Saturday because, you know, it just can't compete with college football. But I'm enjoying it.
Cubbies. I mean,
they better do something tonight.
I know it. They're on the ropes, and
you don't. I mean, you think about this. They threw John Lester and Jake Arrieta, and they're 0-2. I mean, maybe the friendly confines will help them tonight. But looks like Kansas City just a good ball team.
We're at JR Sports Bar and Grill. If you can hear in the background, got a busy program lined up next. We want to thank all of you for tuning in to Sports Call this afternoon. We're here on Tuesday, Thursdays, and Fridays for the most part, Monday and Wednesdays over in the Auburn market. So make sure to find us out there. Find us on our Twitter outlet and pass along any comments that you would like there. You can throw the prediction that we have every week. Find us there, Sports Call AU on Twitter.
So who do you like in the World Series? Toronto, it looks like they're going to go down 2-1. They do have two more. They have, one more game in Toronto. The baseball still does the 2-3-2 series. So can the Cubbies come back from an 0-2 deficit?
I like the Mets. I like the way they're playing. I like the way their pitching sets up. I think they've got power pitchers. They've got two of them. And with two power pitchers, you can go the direction that the Diamondbacks went a few years ago. When you got Randy Johnson, Schilling, you got a pretty good chance you're going to get those two back up there. And the way Harvey and Syndergaard, the way they're throwing the baseball right now, I like the Mets moving forward. Now, that American League group, they can really swing the bat, Andy. So it's going to be a fun I know there's many out there that say, boy, it's going to be an ugly when you look at the ratings. But nonetheless, I like these teams.
Absolutely. I'm all for Kansas City. I'm all for Cubs or Mets, either one. I'm all for it. I'm enjoying it, and I do love baseball. That's going to do it for the Tuesday edition of Sports Call Day. Thank you so much for joining us. Sports Call back on the air tomorrow at 4 p.m. For Randy Lee, I'm Andy Graham saying so long for now. We will talk again soon.